Hi everyone, Isaac here from Extreme Networks. I've decided to do a bonus module on DNS, or rather the DNS. It sounds a little bit weird, the DNS. It stands for the Domain Name Service. So this is a technology, a service, a protocol if you want, that works in the background of all of our computers. And it does very important things. Without this, if you don't have this configured properly, like you can't do anything at all on the internet. You just can't. It will not work. So I think it's important to cover it in detail. I refer to it in a number of sessions. I talk about DNS and I say, well, I'll cover that in a bonus module, etc., etc. So if you've heard, the other three modules that I've done before this recording, then you would have an idea. Generally speaking, when people try and describe what the DNS is, they will use terms like, well, it kind of, it does network IP address translation, and they use these big terms and stuff like that. I created a little doodle video which I'd like to bring in at this stage, just to give you a 2-minute overview of what is the DNS. And as soon as this video is finished, I will come in and then I will build an explanation on that. So let's just play the video now. Okay, I hope you enjoyed that. The point there was to try and push DNS into 2 minutes or 3 minutes. So when your computer needs to chat to another computer, another device, another host. Now, it could be an actual computer. It could be a printer. It could be, your fridge that's connected to the internet. When you need to do that, your computer needs to know the IP address. Remember, we spoke about addresses, and we said all hosts that connect onto a network, they need to have two types of addresses. They need to have a hardware address, which is like a VIN number. It's permanently stamped onto that device, right? Permanent address. And then we spoke about an IP address, which is like a passport. It allows you to travel anywhere around the world. And if you if you have a laptop and you're working at home, you will get an IP address at home. But if you then go to the airport and you hook onto the airport's wireless, then you get a different IP address. Your hardware address stays the same, but the IP address can change as you move from network to network. Now, so we know now about that. But when you need to browse to a website, when you need to go to a location, your computer doesn't have the IP address for every computer and every resource on the internet, right? I mean, it's impossible. It just, there are billions, absolutely billions of these addresses, and your computer has no way to know all of this. And even if it did, can you imagine how long it would take to run through billions and billions of addresses every time you needed to go to a web page? And not just a web page, even on that web page, if it had links to images and videos and other content on there, it would need to fetch all of that. It would just be impractical to do it. So what you need to do is you need to have a system in place to be able to provide that information to you so that you could go to that location. Now, what happens is every operating system has on it addresses for what we call the root. Okay, so the root is a group of computers that sit in different countries around the world. I don't know exactly how many. That kind of information is a little bit obscure, probably for security purposes. But there are data sites, all right, data centers around the world, and they have bunches or clusters of computers, and they call the root. They answer as the root of the internet, and they contain information about where you can find these types of addresses. Okay, and so there are many of these data centers spread around the world. When I say many, I'm not saying thousands. There's probably a couple of dozen of these around the world, and they all replicate each other so that there's no single point of failure, redundancy, right? Okay, so when you hit a URL, now what's a URL? If you don't know yet, if this language is new to you, you know, when you browse a website, you'll have something that will say http:// and it will have an address. Okay, that address will start with a domain name. So that domain name might be extremenetworks.com. It could be IBM.com. It could be Nando's.com. Yes, that's the domain name. And then after that, you get a /, a /, and then the actual address, the website, the page that you're searching for, etc., etc. Now, when you do that on a brand new computer, so let's say you move into a new house, you get your ISP to send you a little black box, you connect it up, it's all working, the lights have gone green, you hook up your laptop, and it's a brand new laptop, you open it up, you received it for Christmas, you open it up for the first time, you switch on the power button. In itself, it knows about those root servers, okay? It does know about them. But because it's never been used before, it doesn't really have much information inside as to how to get to locations, other than it knows, because of the OSI model, that when you click on, update, software or Microsoft update or something like that, it knows, hey, that is an external address. Remember, layer 3, that's an external address. I've been told if it's external, go to the gateway, go to that black box, because that black box will then be in charge of getting the address and coming back and giving you that information. Okay, the DNS. So brand new computer, it will, when it starts this process, when you click on that update button, for example, first thing it does is it looks on its own internal caching, meaning on its own system of storage, to see if recently you've gone to that location, and if you have, what was the address? Because why ask somebody if you already know what the answer is, right? It's quicker to first go and check to see if your computer has seen this place before it goes out. So it does a quick check and said, oh no, it's blank here, new computer, I've got nothing. So I really have to go to that black box. Goes to the black box, and then the black box goes somewhere. Where does it go? Well, we spoke in session 3, we mentioned DHCP, Dynamic Host Configuration Protocol. And we said when that black box that you have at home is switched on, it gets addresses and certain information from the ISP. So in my case, BT, it gets certain information. So it gets information like an IP address, it gets information about DNS, it gets a certain amount of information, right? And it holds that information in that black box. So when you ask it, where is update.com or extremenetworks.com or IBM.com, it will go to the black box. The black box says, I don't know where it is, but I've been told where to find where it is. And where to find it is the DNS server of the ISP. Now, think about that. You've switched on a new machine. It's got no information. But the ISP's DNS server, well, it's serving DNS requests for hundreds, thousands, tens of thousands of people. If it's a big operator, like a mobile operator, millions of people. So their DNS servers would have massive lists, right, of all these particular mappings. As people hit these DNS servers asking for information, these DNS servers will track that information. They're powerful machines because they need to be able to handle this. So you send the request to the DNS server, and the DNS server then does the job of basically finding out that information. So it checks, IBM.com, yeah, someone checked for this a while ago. I know the address, I'll send it back. And they send it back to your little black box. Your little black box passes that on to your computer, and your computer on the OSI layer 7 gets that IP address, and it says, cool, now I know where I need to go and get this website that you requested. So let me relate that to a real world example that will help you to understand it. And not only help you, you will never ever forget again about what DNS is, and you will be able to explain it to somebody. And I'm going to explain this using my mum, okay? So my mum is the best DNS server in the world. And so this is what happens, right? I'm going to relate that to when you click a URL on your browser. So it's my uncle's Richard's birthday. Now, he lives in South Africa. He lives in Cape Town. I haven't spoken to him for a while. I know he moved house. So I don't know his phone number. Okay? So how do I get hold of him? Well, I could do a search on the internet, but because he doesn't really use the internet a lot, well, yeah, I can't find him. I can't track him on the internet. Okay? So I could try and find, if he had Instagram or Facebook or something like that, I would find where he is, but he doesn't. So I'm basically stuck. But I know someone who does know. Okay? So I want to speak to him. I want to wish him happy birthday, but I can't get hold of him. So what I do is I know someone, the black box, who knows how to get hold of him, or knows how to get his information, the information that I need, like his IP address or his phone number. So I phone my mum, right? I phone my mum. And I call up my mum and I say, "Hi, Mum, Isaac here. Oh, my boy, how are you? Why don't you phone me more often? You only phone me every 3 weeks. Why don't you phone me every week? Why don't you phone me every day? You know I love you. You know I gave birth to you. Why don't you phone? I miss you so much." That's my mother, right? So the first 15 minutes of the conversation is just like, "Oh, you should phone me more, etc., etc." She's great. She's great. And I say, "Mum, the reason I called you is it's Uncle Richard's birthday and I don't have his number. Can you help me?" And my mum says, "Of course I can." And she has a little book, okay? It kind of, a little book, like this. but it's kind of narrow, and it's got like little binders, on the outside, little wires, and the book is quite yellow and faded, and she's got all these little tabs, like a Rolodex tab, A, B, C, D, and she kind of takes this out, and she puts the phone over here, and she goes through her little list, and she goes to R, and she opens that up, and there's Uncle Richard's name, right? And Uncle Richard's name has got 3 or 4, and it's been scratched out, and as he's moved around the country, whatever. And then she says, "Have you got a pen with you?" So, yeah, Mom, I've got a pen here with me. Can you give me that number? And she gives me his number, his mobile number. And then she says, "Oh, I've got another number for you. I've got his home number." And she gives me both of these telephone numbers, right? And say, "Thanks, Mom. I'm going to call him. I'm going to wish him a happy birthday." And she says, "Oh, okay, listen, have a great Christmas. Hey, I want to tell you something. I love you. Love you, my boy." So, love you, Mom. And we hang up. And now I have my Uncle Richard's telephone number. Okay? And now I can choose which one of them. I mean, I asked for one number, my mum gave me 2, and DNS servers do that. You can. If they know more than one, then they can give you that information. So now I punch his number into my phone and I call him. "Hey, Uncle Richard, hey, just wanted to wish you a happy birthday, etc., etc." And we, we have the conversation, right? We initiate, remember the 3-way handshake. "Hello, Uncle Richard, is that you?" "Yes, it's you, Isaac." Yeah. "No, I haven't heard you in such a long time. It's so nice to hear your voice. Hey, I phoned you just to wish you a happy birthday and all." Yeah. So that is the job of a DNS server. I don't know his number. I don't know IBM's or Nando's IP address. The computer needs that because it doesn't really know what's www.nandos.com. It's like, I don't know what that is, but I need an IP address. Now, why is that? I mean, people say, yeah, but a computer is so clever, it's so powerful. How does a computer not know? Well, think about it like this. If we met up and we exchanged details, right? If we met up, if I was in Cambridge, walking, around, and I were to meet you, okay, and you said, "Hey, Isaac, I saw you on YouTube and all of that. Hey, listen, let's exchange phone numbers, okay?" And I gave you my details, and I typed, you typed in my name, Isaac from YouTube and from Extreme Networks, etc., etc. And you put in you put in all that information, and you saved that, and you walked away from me, right? And you forgot to put my telephone number into it, right? Listen, it doesn't matter how powerful your phone is. It doesn't matter if you have an Android or an iPhone or if it's the latest or whatever. If you don't put in my phone number, then when you try and dial me, so you look up, you scroll through your contacts, you go, "Isaac, oh great, I want to talk to him." You press, Isaac, you highlight it, and then you press the green button. If you don't have an IP address, guess what happens? Right. You go nowhere. Because the phone, as powerful as it is, as sophisticated as it is, it needs a telephone number to get you to the destination. That's what happens when you browse. When you browse and you click on the URL, or you type in www.extremenetworks.com, enter, your computer doesn't know. It says, "Hey, you've told me about this name, but that's not going to help me. I need an IP address so that I can get you to that website, to that location." My Uncle Richard's phone number, an IP address is that, right? So when DNS helps it to come back with the IP address, says, "Hey, this is the IP address for the name, for the URL that you request for that domain, extremenetworks.com. Here is the IP address for this domain." Now I can complete the call, right? Now I have a phone number in my phone. Now when I press the green button, it knows where to go. That's DNS. As simple as that. If I can expand on it one little bit, and that is, if my mother didn't know my Uncle Richard's phone number, she would know where to find it. She might phone my Uncle George, or my Uncle Philip, or my Uncle Dutch, or my Uncle... She could phone Philip. She could phone one of the other uncles and ask them, do you know where Uncle Richard, do you know where my brother Richard, do you know how I can get his phone number or his mobile number? So a DNS server can do the same thing. It can. But generally speaking, a DNS server, if it doesn't have that number, it will do the same thing. It will try and find, and it will contact the root, and then contact .com, and then there's a process that it will go through. The mechanics are not something that I need to cover now. All I need to cover, and all I need you to understand, is that DNS is the process by which Isaac's mother can return his uncle's phone number, or his uncle's phone number back to him. Isaac's mother is like a DNS server, but better. You know why she's better? Because a DNS never says, I love you, my boy. A DNS server doesn't do that. It just gives you the answer, like, yeah, you are. Yeah, you are. Not my mum. So I hope that this has been useful for you. I hope that when people now talk about DNS, you like, yeah, I know about DNS. It's Isaac's mother. People look at you like you're crazy, but at least you'll be able to explain. If I don't know, I ask Isaac's mother. She finds out, gives me the information, and now I can go there. Hey, have a great one. Hope you enjoyed this explanation. Cheers.